Okay, hello everyone. We're here with Jeff today with Columbia Pest Control. Tell me a little bit about your company. Company is Columbia Pest Control.
Columbia Pest Control started about 70 years ago, 70, very long time. I am the third generation, non-family. I took over back in 2015, started working with the company in 2014. The owner hurt himself and he said to me, I think you're great with the customers, you seem to enjoy it, so you want to buy my company? And I said, I sure do. So I took over it and here we are.
Very good. Can you tell me a story about a time that you struggled, or maybe one of your clients had a problem that was hard to take care of, but you figured it out?
This actually happens on a regular basis.
Okay.
There are so many different companies in Utah. I mean, there's like 1,400 in Utah. A lot of them are kind of fly-by-night. They don't last very long, and they'll go in, do a job, and just kind of do it just to make the money and then move on. Or they'll go out of business because they don't have good business practices. I had a customer call me up, this was in 2017. They had had a termite treatment done 4 years previously. Now, a lot of people don't think that there are termites in Utah. There are. There are termites in Utah. And they had their home treated in 2013. They had it treated and they spent almost $2,000 to have their home treated for termites.
Wow.
Which is not an unheard of number, depending on the company you're dealing with. 2 years later, the customer called that business back and told them they got termites again. The termites were back. That company was no longer in existence. So they spent $2,000 for no reason. They called another company, a local company. They came out, charged them $1,800 to do it again, gave them a 10-year guarantee. In 2017, they came back and said, we have termites again, and this company gave them some lame excuse as to why the warranty wasn't valid anymore.
Oh.
So they called me. And we had some good reviews online. They knew the previous owner. We did some good work. So I went out there, and it wasn't an overly challenging job, but the way that it was treated beforehand was a little unique. It wasn't just the drill and go. It was a little bit more. The angle was a little bit different. I won't bore you with the details of how we do our job, but we had to really kind of be a little more creative on how we were going to do this job. And my original bid was only $1,200, and that was before I knew what the original pricing was. Okay. And obviously she didn't want to pay that extra money, but I got to make a living too, you know. We did the job, and we go back every year to inspect to make sure she's good. And 4 years so far, no termites. So things are looking good. But yeah, that was one of my more proud moments that we were able to do it in one shot. But she has a 10-year warranty. Okay. So we will go back again and again and again to make sure that she's covered, because that's what we want to do with our customers. We want to make sure that you don't have any more problems. I want you to be my customer for life, and your children and your neighbors. So I'm going to do my absolute best to take care of you, so you'll take care of me. So
you guys, that's a big deal, because a lot of companies would come out and treat and walk away and just say the job's done. And
they'll come out every year, but they'll charge you $100 to inspect. Me,
part of your warranty.
We just come out and do it for you.
Wow, that's impressive.
I think so.
Okay, very good. Well, speaking of termites, you're going to talk a little bit about my house again today. Mm-hmm. That's where we usually are. You're going to show me something about termites. I've been wanting this excuse for a long time. So, all right, so we've moved. Movie magic. You guys know we do this all the time. I want to talk to you a little bit, Jeff, about some issues maybe in my office. This is where we are right now. And you said something to me about termites in my house. I thought maybe we're on like a cement foundation and I don't have to worry about it.
Most homes are on cement foundations.
Okay.
So cement has nothing to do with it. Foundations crack. And termites are underground, they're in the dirt, and they'll find, as long as there's a water source and there's a food source, mostly water. That's one thing people don't understand about termites, is you can have the best tasting wood in the world, but if there's no water source, they cannot survive. Which is oftentimes where you'll come into a home and you'll find evidence of termites, very small amount, but there's no live ones because there was obviously a water source, maybe a leaking water heater, maybe there was a roof leak at one point. That's gone, the termites have left, they have no water source. What I was pointing out to you is in a lot of homes that we do, you've got this paneling. It's behind, there's nothing. You maybe have some 2x4s, you may have some other small, 1x1s. But in a lot of homes that we treat, especially across the Wasatch, Bountiful, Centerville area, North Salt Lake, these areas right here, we find termites behind these a ton. You have no way of knowing you have termites until you take this down, or sometimes we'll see a little bit of evidence as you get towards the ceiling, because they're not eating this. they're eating the wood behind it, and they're eating the paper on the drywall. So oftentimes, without ripping these out, you don't know. And that's one of the challenges of termites is we can do a full inspection of your home, and there's no evidence. And let's say all of a sudden you get a nice tax return, you say, I want to redo this room. You pull all the paneling off, you find termites, and then you get mad at me for not knowing there were termites, and I say, well, we can't see what's behind your wall. But there's always a chance. I find termites behind these a ton. I just say, if you can afford to get rid of it, get rid of it. It's just one of those things to take care of.
That is one of the things that we painted over it. Obviously, it was like dark brown when we came in. We painted over it. We've made do because you do what you have to, right?
Absolutely.
It's what our home is, and we're making do. But I love now I have a good reason to replace it. I can bump it up on the priority list.
Replacing it with drywall or other kind of wood is where the cost comes in. So if you have no reason to suspect you're not seeing any damage in the thicker parts of wood, then don't make it a priority. Don't start ripping your walls out just to see if you have termites.
Right.
Call out a professional. We can take a look around and see if we find anything that may make you want to do that.
Right. Which is very standard in any inspection. When you do your due diligence, we're going to have an inspector come in. They're not going to open up walls. It's not reasonable to do that. So you look and see, are there any evidences?
Yeah.
And then we move forward from there. So very good. Okay, so we talked a little bit about having our home safe from bugs and infestations.
There's no way to get rid of bugs out of your house 100%. Even new homes. No matter how sealed it is, no matter how new it is, no matter how old it is, there's always going to be a way to get into the home, especially for the smaller bugs. But as the home gets older, the house shifts, foundations crack, the earth moves a little bit, so the home settles and things start to move. If you look over here in this window sill, as the house has kind of shifted and as the sun's been coming into this room, you'll notice that you've got a crack along this line here in the caulking. What will happen is the bugs are going to make their way inside behind the screening, through the moisture slits, and they can actually get in through spots like that. Because this window is basically just a barrier between your house and the outside. They'll go down and up and they'll make their way in. A non-toxic, very easy fix is to actually just re-caulk the inside of your home and the window sills. Re-caulk around the inside and the outside. Anywhere you're seeing cracks, I mean, every 2 or 3 years, it's nice to have a fresh caulk line anyway because it looks really pretty. But little things like this can make a big difference. Those who are scared of using pesticides, I get it. There can be scary things with chemicals. But this is a very inexpensive, easy way to help. As well as things like your screens. But if you look in the screen, you'll see these little holes. Little holes that happen when, maybe you bump it with the rake while you're outside. Maybe it's just getting thin. Maybe some kids like to... Over here in this window, you'll notice a much larger hole. Things like that will allow for bugs like mosquitoes. It'll allow for bugs like box elder bugs, elm seed bugs, chinch bugs. You can even get rodents and things like that. But mostly flying insects. Everyone likes to have the window open at night. It's nice and cool, especially here in Utah. But if you leave that open at night, you're just asking, you're just inviting all those little critters in, and that's not too. I don't want to wake up with a mosquito on my face.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome because obviously we know not everything's going to stay out all the time, but at least I can do some very small, very simple steps to get my home so that it's a little bit more bug proof.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Very, very inexpensive, and if you don't know how to do it, YouTube it, or talk to a neighbor. People have, caulking isn't hard, but it takes a little bit of practice. Redoing a screen, it takes a little bit of practice. You can literally spend one Saturday afternoon recalking, rescreening, and you'll see a huge difference in the amount of bugs coming in just by doing those little things.
Very good, very good. We're going to go to my back door, and I want you to maybe point out a few things there as well, because I think it goes along in line with what can I do to kind of create a barrier for bugs. All right, so we have moved back to the back door. I really am grateful that you're here looking at this. The one thing, this I know area is such a trap for bugs for us because it's warm. I know they can feel the heat and they're like, we want to be warm. And we will find big spiders. There was a earwig out here before. I tried to leave him because I hoped maybe he would stay just for you.
He knew I was coming. He knew I was coming.
So tell me, what can I do that I'm not doing now that would better protect my home?
Well, side note, you're happy I'm here, so is your handyman, because I've just given you like a 2-page list of things that you have to do. As was mentioned with the whole window situation, as the house shifts, doors don't sit properly anymore. Sometimes you got to kind of, a little harder to close it. And sometimes you'll walk past your door and you'll see a little bit of light coming through the sides or underneath. That just, it happens. No matter how well the door fit 10 years ago, the house has shifted. As that happens, those little gaps allow for bugs to move indoors, especially as it starts to become a little more crisp in the air at night.
Yep.
The bugs need to go where it's warmer. If they haven't already made their home outside, they're going to make a way inside. So you've got to make sure you've got some kind of sealant around the home. You can never keep them all out. I would never ever guarantee you that. But you can really help by simply making sure that you've got good weather stripping around the edges of the frames. If you do find that the framing is way off and there's a major gap, you're probably going to have that repaired professionally. I don't do that myself, but there are only so many things that, you know, a little bit of cardboard can fix and little matchsticks, you can't fill gaps. But you can use foam. I mean, if you notice that there's cracks around here and it's framing, yeah, you can foam it or caulk it. But if the door is really bad, just have it done professionally, and you know, there's that tax refund again being used.
Yeah.
But around the edges, honestly, you can weather strip, and that can be done every few years. I mean, the weather stripping wears off, doors close, the heat, the cold, the heat, the cold. Weather strip, weather strip. A way to know how bad the gap is in your doors is to have somebody at night, when it's black, no lights, stand outside and put a flashlight or a lantern or something bright right at the base of the door, and someone stand on the inside, and if you can see quite a bit of light coming through, you know you got to kind of fix it up.
Okay.
And honestly, sometimes the weather stripping will fix that real quick. The challenge you have, if the gaps get too big, you will get rodents in your home. We get a lot of mice in people's homes, a lot of mice.
Okay.
And that's one of the first things we check. The gaps in the garage door, the gaps in the doors leading into the home, things like that, because that's how they're getting in. They have to come in somehow, and if they've got an easy way in, you're giving them an easy opportunity. If you're getting things in your home, if you have a lot of food storage, in Utah especially, everyone's got food storage, and if you've got, especially on the lower levels, you've got your granola bars, and you've got your sugars, and you've got your candies, and you've got your boxed cereals, that is just a haven for them. All they need is a water source, and you'll have an infestation very quickly.
So we won't go look at my food storage
No,
then.
we'll talk about that. I do want to point out one thing that's very important, especially around door frames, front doors, back doors. In the corners of your homes, in little spots like this where it's a little bit darker, a little bit cooler, areas like this is where you're going to find black widows and other spiders. Black widows are more aggressive, and they're actually a little bit scarier because they're venomous. Other spiders are not venomous, they're just scary, and they will bite you, but you won't go to the hospital for a regular spider. You'll go to the hospital on a black widow.
Okay.
So if you've got a lot of storage, bikes, wood, things like that close to the house, just be aware that you're possibly going to be giving them an opportunity to live there. So be very cautious when you're around that to make sure you're not getting bit.
And if it was, by removing their webs, is that helping at all? Or what's the best way that I start noticing that they're coming? Is that the time to call a professional, or is there something I can do?
Noticing a lot of webs gives you an idea that they're there. You can remove the web, but it takes spiders just a couple hours to build a new web.
Okay.
And so they can do it overnight. So it's not like your house burning down, you're not just going to rebuild. It takes months and months. With spiders, you can knock the web down, it'll be back by the next morning.
Okay.
So when you're dealing with spiders, you can use the store-bought stuff, but it doesn't have a great residual, which is where the professionals come in, because we can get the good stuff. You have to have a license to get the good stuff. And it lasts much longer. We have the equipment that we can actually really apply it evenly. But yeah, quick fix, buy the cheap stuff from the store temporarily, but have it done by a professional to really get that barrier protection down for long term.
Okay, so I like that now we have some stages. First, the weather stripping, make sure that I've got a tight seal in my door. That's going to help me prevent.
Absolutely.
Number two, I can start keeping an eye out. If I need an emergency, I can run to the store and maybe get something real quick. But then my next escalation is going to definitely be call a professional.
You can just avoid all those steps and just have it done on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Pest control can be very expensive, depending on what's having it done. Some companies are several $100s for a simple job. Some are as low as $49, $50. Now, $50 for some people is a lot of money, and I get that.
Yeah.
But you're paying that every quarter. You have your house treated top to bottom. You're really helping with those problems. And obviously, if the money's not there, I get it. There's a budget situation. Yeah, have it done once a year, twice a year. Do something on your own, and talk to your professional. I mean, I love giving out free advice. I'm happy to tell you, go buy this. It's not as good as what I have,
right? But
it'll work for now. If you're on a budget, spend $20. It'll last you for 6 months. You have to spray on a regular basis.
And then your family's protected.
Your family's protected.
Which is
short term,
yes.
but they're protected.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do have to say though too, Jeff, that I'm really grateful to you because you are very open-minded, no judgment. It just is what it is, and here's what we need to do to either remedy it or just let it go. And I really appreciate that about you. So we're glad to have Jeff with us today. Make sure you check the description below. We'll have your contact information, the best way to get a hold of you. And again, thank you so much for your time and helping us learn, because every time I always learn, but you really have just given us a lot to look at.
Happy to be here. Happy to be of assistance.